What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Pace and Space podcast. My name is Sean Barnard, here with Sam Oshtry, talking about your undefeated Philadelphia 76ers. That's right, the journey to 82-0 is still on, and welcome to everyone who was not familiar with the work of Valdez Drexel Edgecombe Jr. That's right, VJ Edgecombe leading the way tonight with 34 points, the second highest in the modern era for a rookie. We'll dive into the whole stats for all of this, but the Philadelphia 76ers take down the Boston Celtics 117-116 to get the season started right. Sam Oshtry, how we feeling, my friend?
That was special. We were talking about before the show. We're like, all right, what are we going to talk about? Is there going to be much to talk about? What topics are we going to hit? It's just game one. And then we have one of the best rookie debuts in NBA history. I mean, only two guys scored more than VJ Edgecombe did tonight, and that's Frank Selby, who I've never even heard of, and Wilt Chamberlain, who's everyone's heard of. And both those guys did it in the 1950s. 34 points. Not a single player in this century had scored 30 points in their debut, and VJ Edgecombe just had a 34 ball. There's a lot to break down, but that was a historic rookie performance that we just saw from VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah, 100%. We got a lot to get into there. A grown-up performance from Tyrese Maxey. VJ Edgecombe absolutely announcing his presence. I thought there's some really nice things to see from guys like Kelly Oubre, like Dominic Barlow. Adem Bona, not so much. Justin Edwards, didn't really see him. And Joel Embiid, we do have to get into that conversation as well. But I do want to start a bit more surface level here with a 117-116 victory here. I did want to note the Sixers directly here. It looked like the game was slipping away in that fourth quarter, and things completely turned on their head now. That we're talking about this team outscoring them in the fourth, to dive at the exact box score in the fourth quarter now, as I struggle to pull it up, but I believe it was 42-30 off the top of my head there. The thing that I want to okay, perfect. And the thing that I want to note is it felt like there's some guts to this Sixers team. And honestly, we can get lost in the injuries of everything last year. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. That we talked about it for an entire season. This felt like, to me, a team that took it a bit personal, that said, we're going to scrap. We're not going to turn over. We are going to fight. And that's what I want to see from this Philadelphia 76ers team. Did you feel the same way with that type of character takeaway, Sam?
I mean, all offseason, based on how last season ended, the two big things were let's get younger, let's get more athletic. And those are the things they addressed in free agency. That's what they addressed with the draft and drafting VJ Edgecombe. And that was kind of their focus. You saw that with just the rotations with Nick Nurse. Andre Drummond only played 2 minutes. Yeah. And that was in a game where Joel Embiid was on a minutes restriction. Yeah. Kyle Lowry didn't play. He was coaching a lot from the sideline, but he didn't play. Eric Gordon
coaching his butt off, by the way.
Yeah, he was. But this wasn't a game where they relied on their old guys and veterans like we've seen the past couple of years in the absence of Paul George, in the absence of Embiid. So when they said that they wanted to get younger, more athletic, you saw that youthfulness. They were playing really fast. I mean, Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, of course, guys pushing the pace for the most part, but as a team, they were playing really fast, and you saw that athleticism. And look, the Celtics aren't some juggernaut, but that's a great tone setter for the season of how the rotations are going to look like and how the Sixers are actually going to play, which is a far cry from the sluggish old version that they played last year.
100% there. And I don't care that they're not the juggernaut Celtics. This is a team that won the championship 2 years ago. This is a team that's been a historic rival of this franchise, and I'm fired up that they showed up the way that they did tonight. I want to start right there with VJ Edgecombe, man. I know that we've touched on it from a surface level standpoint here. This was an unbelievable debut. Probably the greatest rookie debut that I've ever seen straight up across the NBA. That this dude looked like a grown adult. If you did not know this man was 20 years old, was drafted as the 3rd overall pick just a couple months ago, you would have thought this was a seasoned vet, down to the point where you're putting the ball in his hands with the game on the line to connect with free throws. And he did slip and missed 2 of them at the end there. I do not fault VJ for that whatsoever, that he did his job. I was really impressed with the way that it felt like whenever there was the advantage, there was a play where Xavier Tillman slipped out on him, and it was barbecue chicken that he said, I'm in, I'm locked in, I'm taking this guy. I'm struggling to find words with how impressed I am with VJ Edgecombe. What did you take away from that performance, Sam?
You saw it in Summer League. I mean, we heard about it, of course, coming out of college into the draft. This was going to be the most NBA-ready guy. The athleticism was off the charts. You saw it in Summer League. You saw it in preseason. But you always take that stuff with a grain of salt. What he did tonight was against real competition or his first real NBA game. And to go out there and have that type of athleticism and look that NBA ready. I mean, you talk about that Xavier Tillman bucket that he had, to have the recognition that early, like I have the mismatch, give me the ball. His straight line speed is unbelievable. I mean, we were talking about who's the fastest players in the NBA, and Maxey was right up there. This is the fastest backcourt in the NBA with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. His straight line speed and athleticism is unbelievable. But you see athletic guys get into the NBA a lot, and it doesn't always pan out. It takes them a while. Like I look at Scoot Henderson a lot. The athleticism was always off the charts, but he hasn't really.
VJ's better athlete. Like I'll interject right there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, athletic guys in general, it doesn't always click necessarily right away. VJ Edgecombe has the athleticism mixed with the perfect feel for the game, constantly making the right reads. He's not a guy who's going to turn the ball over a lot. He is just at a whole different level for his age and for most rookies, which you don't see. It's not like the guy played a lot of college basketball at all. Like it's not like he played 4 years of college basketball and is coming to the NBA at that level. His NBA readiness was off the charts, and that's what people talked about. But this is the first time we really saw it in a real game. And the last thing is the three-point shooting. I mean, I believe he was 5 for 13 from three. I don't know if the box score right in front of me, but I think it was 5 for 13 from three. That was the biggest question mark coming out of college, was the three-point shooting. Obviously, he worked on the shot, developed the shot throughout the offseason. I still don't love the release point. And look, I'm not like a shot doctor or anything. I don't love the look of the shot. I don't love the release point, but he has the utmost confidence in. I mean, to shoot 13 threes in your NBA debut is crazy. And he was on the catch, off the dribble. He was, every time he had a three opportunity, he was taking it, and he connected on a bunch. So it's clear that even his weaknesses have become a strength. And it was this, I can't even say enough about this debut because it was that special.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned sort of the feel for the game. I did want to pull up that this is the very first basket of the game here. And in an ideal world, that Kelly Oubre Jr. is probably not the guy that you do have shooting this ball. But I think this shows what you're speaking about with VJ Edgecombe. As you see him come down the pin down with Joel Embiid here. Little dribble handoff, the audio, and the dish out to Oubre, who knocks down the three here. That is like advanced basketball smarts. And to play it again here, and I'm going to do a little freeze, you can see he gets downhill. He reads that Sam Hauser is making the cut in here. Oubre is the open pass, and then he just makes that really effective. That is beyond just like an athlete play right there. That is a high intangible, high IQ play. And that was the first basket of the entire game that we did see there. There was a lot of that kind of stuff from VJ Edgecombe. I thought they let him bring the ball up like way more than I was expecting to be the case there. I've heard the quotes of him like viewing himself as a one in the long haul, and we're going to have that conversation down the line. But what, like, to your
Let me just say real quick, as you showed that clip there, I don't know if the Sixers knew this was going to be the Celtics game plan going in. Obviously, they haven't played a game yet, but the Celtics, they don't have any rim protection. I mean, they don't. They're really without a center, even though he played well. The guy you really like, he had a great game. They don't have a lot of rim protection. What they were doing was completely packing the paint, and they were willing and giving up open threes consistently, especially in the first half, because they just didn't want anything in the paint. So VJ Edgecombe, to recognize that in his first NBA game, where you're not going to have as much going downhill because they're trying to really pack the paint, because that's going to be the rim protection. It's going to be rim protection by committee because they don't really have any bigs and they're a smaller team. So for him to recognize that, but as he's going downhill that early in his first NBA game, and it wasn't just that play that you just showed to Kelly Oubre for the three, constantly making the right play with the kickouts, reading the help defense. It was this was a whole different level for a rookie.
Yeah. The off-ball cutting kind of blew me away, too. Like, there was one play in the second half where he had a really nice backdoor cut where Maxey sort of threaded the needle between Peyton Pritchard and I forget who the other defender was. But the cut and the dunk, like that type of play, those are rare for a rookie, man. You don't really get that for guys who that was literally his first NBA basketball game. So shout out to VJ Edgecombe with that there. To your point about packing the paint, I do think that's going to be a problem that the Sixers run into. And the reason that I say that, when you look at their starting lineup that they rolled with tonight, Dominic Barlow getting interjected, who I loved. I thought he really brought an energy. I see the clear value in what he brings to this team. I do think that it is not a question of if, but when he's an upgrade from a two-way to a standard deal, that I just see the fit from a power forward perspective for him. But when you have a guy like Dominic Barlow and Kelly Oubre, who I appreciate probably more than the general consensus here, but there are no ifs, ands, or buts. The dude is not an NBA quality shooter. He's going to be below average three-point shooter, and he's going to get hot. He hit a big three in that fourth quarter. He hit that first basket of the game, but I think that's going to be kind of the tactics there. That becomes even more necessary that you have guys like VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey there. And speaking of, I do not want to forget about Tyrese Maxey real quick. The dude who set the tone, 40 points, shot 13 of 24 from the field, 7 of 9 from beyond the three-point arc, had 6 assists, 2 rebounds there. Thought he brought it defensively, had a really nice like pick six kind of steal where he took it coast to coast there. stepped up as a leader. When he had Josh Minot on the island on that 1 3-pointer that he hit was just absolutely sick. He was feeling it for a stretch of this game. That's kind of the tone setter for this Sixers team. And we'll touch on the Joel Embiid conversation. I'm seeing the comments fly in, and I totally get it with the Joel stuff. But what did you take away from Maxey tonight?
I mean, this was one of Maxey's best games with a limited Joel Embiid, because we've seen him struggle. I mean, obviously Embiid was out there. It didn't really feel like he was out there, but we've seen him struggle without Embiid. I mean, 7 for 9 from 3. He was getting to his spots at will. There wasn't anyone on the Celtics who could guard him. They were running 2 at him at certain points, and he was constantly making the right read. This was one of the better Maxey games we've seen in a long time. I believe it was they said on the broadcast, the highest Sixer points in a debut that any Sixers ever had. So this was an incredible Maxey game. And look, they needed this from Maxey and Edgecombe, because those two guys had 63% of the entire Sixers points. Those 2 guys combined shot 54% from 3. The rest of the team had shot 22% from 3. So they were getting no offensive creation from anywhere other than Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. So those 2 guys had to have the performance they did. Because look, I like Dominic Barlow too. I thought he had a good game, but Grimes wasn't great. Obviously, we'll talk about Embiid. He was awful. There was no offensive creation or production from anywhere else. So this was an awesome Maxey game. If we're going to see that throughout the season, whether Embiid and Paul George are out there or not, this Sixers team's ceiling really elevates.
And by the way, I know people are going to roll their eyes at this comment. They miss Paul George, man. Like, can you imagine if it's Paul George in like some of these spots where it was Kelly
and Trent Watford? Like Watford is going to have a real role in this team too. Those are 2 rotation guys that were out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there were a couple, like Jabari Walker had a couple flashes where he hit a big like mid-range jumper that I was like, I didn't really realize that. That's not really a shot that I want in the arsenal here. But just thinking through, that could be Paul George, that could be Trendon Watford, to your point, who playmaking wise I think is going to play a big role. Let's get to the big fella here. So I'm seeing the comments fly in. Do we even need Embiid? Philip P says, shout out to you. You got to talk about how pathetic JoJo was. Yeah, it was not great from Joel Embiid. He did not play the final over 9 minutes in this figure here, that he only ultimately finished shooting 1 for 9 from the field, moved far worse than to me looked to be the case in the preseason there. His final stat line being 4 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists in 20 minutes, 0 for 4 from 3, 1 for 9 from the field. Give me your thoughts, Sam. Leave it off before I think I'll have our guys back to an extent.
Yeah, look, I don't really ever look at like plus minus throughout a game, because that stat is not a good stat. It lacks so much context. But he did have the worst plus minus on the team for the Sixers. He was minus 16. I mean, he was awful. There's not really much to say. Even the first stint, he was settling. He was shooting way too many threes. Even like there was a moment where he had Sam Hauser on a switch. And that is in prime Embiid. He dominates that switch. Sam Hauser on him, who's half his size, half his weight. That's just like he just licks his chops at an opportunity like that, like in the mid post. And he had it, and he couldn't even get position. He wasn't even calling for the ball really. And it was like that play was just where we're at with Embiid right now, where he can't even dominate Sam Hauser on a switch. Where are we really? Because he wasn't like, it just wasn't the Embiid that we know. And this was more what we saw last season, where he was playing on a minutes restriction, was playing once every like couple weeks for 2 games, and then would sit for another 2 weeks, play another 2 games, and he never found a rhythm. And he was just settling constantly instead of driving to the rim, getting to the free throw line, which is his bread and butter, is getting to the free throw line, operating in the mid post, operating on the low block. He is a good 3-point shooter. It's not like you want to take that away from his game completely. But this was the classic settle Embiid game. It honestly looked like a version of Embiid that we've seen like the final 4 minutes of a game 6 against the Celtics, where he kind of just disappears and wants no part of the action offensively. And then you talk about defensively. I mean, what he was like 3 or 4 years ago when he was playing an MVP level, but also as a defensive player of the year candidate, to what he is now, where people are going at him at the rim. He was a guy that used to deter people away from the basket. We saw with the Knicks series a couple of years ago, the Knicks were attacking him at the rim because he had no lift. He had one nice block tonight, but Jaylen Brown was at him at the rim. He's just not a rim protector he used to be. I don't really know what to say in terms of whether this is gonna to try to project his future. If this is like, all right, he was kind of just messing around game 1, getting his legs back. He's gonna ramp up his minutes, ramp up his time, or is he gonna play a couple games and not play for 2 weeks? I don't think anyone knows, including the Sixers, what to expect from Joel Embiid this year. But that was just very discouraging. And the only encouraging part about it was that they actually have their backcourt of the future, where you're really starting to think about the post Joel Embiid era.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a discouraging performance. There's no way to not acknowledge that, especially on like the back of the preseason performance that I was pretty like thrilled by to see that version of Joel. And I just think like directly comparing that, which was what was that Friday compared to now, like pretty night and day different for how I thought he looked on the floor, which is a bit like stunning and concerning to me there. I think there's going to be ups and downs all year. I don't think this is like it's over for Joel in the way that I see the victory laps being taken on Twitter, on social media, all these things. I do think there's going to be a wide variance for what he looks like from game 1 to game 82. And I do think it's important to note this is game 1. Historically speaking, Joel Embiid has not been a strong starter to a season, that he has been a guy who's taken some time to work into form, and that's been maddening through itself. I don't think that's quite the deal here, but I do think there's some truth to this guy has not played high-level competitive basketball in an extreme amount of times, or in a prolonged period of time here. I'll also note I didn't love the way they used him straight up. That's sort of my vision for this Sixers team was still Embiid as a decision maker, that I think you get him the ball at the elbow, you run pin downs where it's Tyrese Maxey coming off motion, where we're talking about Quentin Grimes cutting, VJ Edgecombe, backdoor stuff. Like, think about how much juice that they've provided out of guys like JJ Redick, Marco Bellinelli, players like that are coming off screens and that type of motion, and how much more talented these players are. I really didn't see much of that whatsoever in the offense, that it felt like when Joel got the ball, it was a lot of, okay, Joel, go figure something out, which for sure, there's been stretches of his career where he has been good enough for that to be the case. I don't think we're in that anymore. I think he does need to be treated like a little bit more of an everyday player, like a guy who's just a part of this team, not the clear superstar in the way that he has been for the larger part of his career here. So I didn't love the usage from Nick Nurse, but that's certainly no excuse for how he looked.
When Nick Nurse came to the Sixers 2 years ago, and that was the year that he was on track to become the best per minute scorer in NBA history. He was having the best season of his career, and then gets injured 39 games in, misses all that time, comes back for the Knicks series. But that was Nick Nurse's first year. That's when Embiid was averaging a career high in assists because of how they were using him. They were using him as the hub of the offense. They were running so many dribble handoffs between Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, using guys like Maxey in a way that they use JJ Redick as a shooter. I remember like cutting down a clip of like they ran the same exact set for Maxey 3 off of Joel Embiid screen as they did with a JJ Redick. I remember that was like on a TikTok that I did when I used to have TikTok back in the day. But now it's like it's not like they don't want to use him in that role. It's just you don't know, you can't build your offense around him like that because you don't know when he's actually going to be out there, and you don't know how long he's going to actually be out there for. So I don't blame Nick Nurse for not implementing the system that they used 2 years ago with Embiid as a hub of the offense. It's just like you don't know how long he's going to be out there, and you don't know when he's going to be out there. So what really choice do you have? Again, like you said, it's kind of just a cog in the system. You can't be the system anymore.
Sure, totally agree with that point there. Another difference that I noticed from the preseason game to now, Embiid was the guy like making the inbounds pass on a whole lot of like the set plays and the under the basket, the baseline out of bounds, the sideline out of bounds plays. That didn't happen at all tonight. And that was kind of a bit of a surprise to me. That was something I had like jotted in the positives from the preseason of like, that makes sense to me to an extent of you can still have him involved. He's smart enough. He is like a high level decision maker. He's a really high IQ basketball player. Put him in spots where you can capitalize on that. That didn't happen tonight either. So I think that's going to be a work in progress with like getting him involved. But to the same point, whether this was a Joel Embiid call, whether this was a Nick Nurse call, he was treated like another member of the team, that he didn't play the final 9 minutes of the game, and they won the basketball game. That I can't remember another time throughout the entirety of Joel Embiid's career where he can go scoreless in a first quarter, and the team ends up winning that game. That's what happened here tonight.
Yeah, so they obviously he was going to be on a minutes restriction coming in.
Yeah,
they mapped out the minutes he was going to play and the shifts he was going to play when he was going to be subbed in and subbed out. So I don't know exactly. Interesting to hear what Nick Nurse has to say post game as we're talking here. I don't know exactly. Like if that was the plan, that he wasn't going to play the final stretch of the game, or if
I can't imagine, right?
I can't imagine either, but it's possible. But more likely scenarios, they were way worse when he was on the floor.
Correct.
And they're worse right now. This current version of Joel Embiid, and again, especially against this Celtics team, they're worse with Joel Embiid on the floor. So I'm not going to completely give up. Like, oh, the Sixers are better without him, this and that, like a lot of the fan base will. But what I will say is I think it's going to take time for him to get back to playing Joel Embiid basketball. I'm not saying he's ever going to be an MVP again, but can he be a top 30 to 40 player in the league? Can he be an all-star contender like he was, or he was way better than that a couple of years ago? So I still have hope that he can get to that level. I'm not just completely giving up on the Joel Embiid experience right now, but it's a far cry from last year to what we saw last night, to what it was 2 years ago. It's just a completely different Joel Embiid experience.
Yeah, and again, this is game 1 of 82, so I'm not ready to throw it in the trash to your same point here. That I think there's going to be ups and downs. This is the reality throughout the entire season here, but certainly not the ideal start that we would hope for Joel. But let's bookend that. I do want to move down and acknowledge a couple other players here. So we talked a little bit about Dominic Barlow. I kind of want to hit on him to a fuller extent. It does seem like there's a real Dominic Barlow fan base sort of growing here. Shout out to Rocky the Birds fan in the chat saying, we really had PJ Tucker as our starting power forward not too long ago. Barlow gang, stand up. And I do think that is a theme that I'm seeing a lot of Dominic Barlow love. I just respect a guy who knows his role, and his finishing stat line tonight being 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 of those rebounds coming in the offensive end. Shot 0 of 2 for 3, but it's encouraging me that he took those attempts there. I liked what I saw with Barlow. I see the vision. I absolutely see him getting upgraded from a two-way to a standard contract. What were your thoughts on his game tonight?
You don't really see a guy being your starting 4 on a two-way contract for opening night very often. So I'm with you that I think that'll absolutely get upgraded probably sooner than later at some point this season, because they're going to need him. Again, Trent Wofford, I like. He's going to play a lot of forward too. And when Paul George is back, Paul George is going to play some forward too when they go to those guard-heavy lineups, especially when McCain's back. We didn't even mention McCain, who was out. They were missing 3 legitimate rotation players, and they beat a team who's probably going to be in the playoffs this year in the Celtics. So that was an encouraging win. Dominic Barlow was great. He's a right place, right time guy. Absolutely knows his role. Can just feast on the offensive glass. Had 5 assists, which is impressive. A really good connector as a passer. So I was impressed with him. He's a good finisher around the rim. Obviously, we've been hearing about him all preseason, all training camp, because of how much they liked him and how much the Sixers organization was behind him. And you don't start a guy unless you feel that way. And the proof was in the pudding, because he was great tonight.
Yeah, I was impressed with Nick Nurse kind of putting his money where his mouth was for kind of throwing him into the starting lineup there. The guy that sort of got the short end of the stick on that was Adem Bona. And to acknowledge his stat line outright, he played 15 minutes tonight. He had 0 points, 3 rebounds, and assist. I didn't like the Adem Bona game tonight. And the thing that I'll say is he is all-out effort. He is a guy that I think will endear to the fan base and is going to give you everything he's got. But he's just so spazzy in his movement sometimes. And it's almost to an effort level that it's frustrating, that it's going to be more beneficial to the team if you do just reel it in a little bit. But I did not see the strides forward and the polish in his game that I expected to be the case. I do not trust him as any sort of decision maker. I think he's still pretty, early in his career arc in a way that I hoped he had progressed more than was the case. But what do you think of Bona tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he was really a non-factor tonight. He's more of just a rim-running screen setter to me. He's always been a really good screen setter. I think what the games where Embiid is going to miss, and there's going to be a lot of them throughout the year, he's going to have a much larger role. And so I absolutely, it is a clean hat. Thank you. Thanks, my guy, Dixon. But when Adam Bona, when Embiid is out, Adam Abona is going to have a role as a real 5. And so he's a great screen setter for guys like Maxey and VJ Edgecombe to come off of when McCain's back. So he's going to have a role in this team, but it's mostly going to be when Embiid's back. Because when Embiid's actually playing, even if it's limited minutes, he's going to have a game like he had tonight where he's mostly a non-factor.
Yeah, and perhaps even more noteworthy in that is just 3 minutes for Andre Drummond, which I did love to see there. We did not see Kyle Lowry whatsoever, and shout out to Rocky the Birds fan commenting, can we applaud Nurse for keeping Lowry on the bench where he belongs? I do think that's going to be the Kyle Lowry role, and I want to give him credit. Kyle Lowry was on his toes. He was coaching. He was screaming. He was in
the ref's face more than Nick Nurse was. It was almost impossible to do.
He straight up was. So I'll give Lowry a little bit of props there. I guess, a little bit of a better salary to be a last man on the bench than an assistant coach is maybe the angle here. I don't need to see Kyle Lowry. We got enough young, talented guards. Like you mentioned, McCain just coming back. We saw what we saw from Edgecombe. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey we highlighted. I do want to bring up Quentin Grimes here. So Quentin Grimes, and to finish his full stat line here, that he did finish the game a lot better than it was looking like it was going to be the case for most of it. He played 32 minutes, shot 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 5 from beyond the three-point arc, 10 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, did have 5 turnovers and 3 fouls, but did finish up plus 18 as well. What do you make of Quentin Grimes' game tonight? Because it was a little bit all over the map.
It does feel like and we've talked about all offseason, what's this guard rotation going to look like between Maxey, Edgecombe, Grimes, and especially when McCain comes back. And look, you can't, VJ Edgecombe's an unbelievable on-ball defender, but he's still small. He's still small. And McCain and Maxey, that backcourt is just too little defensively to hold up because they can't have the point of attack defense they want to have, especially in transition. With those two guys being your 1 and 2, VJ Edgecombe's a different story. When you get to the playoffs, it's completely different. I think you're going to need Grimes defensively for those purposes, but it does feel like he very well could be the odd man out of that guard rotation. But again, a lot of this is going to come down to when is Paul George going to come back, and what's Paul George's production level going to be? Because I could see a scenario where if Paul George isn't playing a lot or is never gets healthy for whatever reason, Quentin Grimes is going to have to play a lot. He played over 30 minutes tonight. He's going to have to be able to shoot at a higher clip than he is. He's going to have to create at a higher clip than he did tonight. Because we saw that last season. Yeah, the Sixers were really bad last year, and it was mostly against bad teams late in the year. But he was the number one primary creator for stretches, and he did a great job. He is a shot creator, and we saw that last year in the second half of the year when he got traded to the Sixers. So I still have hope for him, but it does feel like he very well could be out of this guard rotation.
Yeah, and I think I'm in the minority here that I'm thrilled that the Sixers did not pay this guy the massive amounts of money that he wanted. That I understand the appeal of getting him on a long-term contract, but I think like sometimes organizations
he's going to be screwed. Just real quick, he's going to be screwed if he somehow his minutes get reduced and he's not part of this guard rotation. He's going to be screwed for free agency next year because then the market's really going to be slim for him.
Yeah, and that was my point why like he can't shoot sky high the way that he did. That it was in both sides' best interest to come to the table for some sort of agreement here. He did deserve a raise. Like this was his chance to get paid out, but you're also under no circumstance, under no condition, under no offseason, a $30 million per year player. Quentin Grimes, you're just not. Like that is the reality, and I think we kind of saw that tonight, that he's not VJ Edgecombe. He's not Tyrese Maxey. He's not Jaylen Brown. He's not Anthony Simons. He may not even be Peyton Pritchard, man. He's a fine basketball player that the Sixers need him as a key part of this, but there was a stretch. I mean, he finished at halftime, he had 1 point in this game, and there was a stretch where I was just like Quentin, like this is your show. Like they need some clear offensive help, but to your point here, I do think that 3-guard rotation is the way that they have to go, or the 3-guard lineup there. And that's how they close this game with Maxey, Edgecombe, and Grimes as a key part of that. I think we're going to see more and more. It's going to be fascinating when McCain factors into this because
McCain and Paul George. It's like I can't see a role for Quentin Grimes there when Paul George is back. Especially if Embiid's going to be playing crunch time minutes.
Do you think this is a fair? I think like the ideal finishing lineup is going to be Maxey, Edgecombe, probably Grimes, Paul George, and Embiid. I think that's probably the ideal finishing 5.
Yeah, Paul George and Embiid are completely healthy. Yes, I think it's very matchup dependent. There's a scenario where I'd rather have McCain out there than Grimes. And I just talked about how bad defensively that team is, where you can attack a guy like McCain and Maxey, and that's just a really small point of attack defense. But if Embiid can get back to health, or he can be a solid rim protector, and Paul George defending wings, it's really going to be matchup dependent. And I think you're going to see a lot of different closing rotations throughout the first few months of the season as Nick Nurse experiments with some things.
Yeah, interesting. We'll swing it over to the other side of things. Any takeaways that you had notably from the Celtics tonight?
Not really. Kind of what I expected. From Peyton Pritchard's awesome.
Yeah.
He didn't really score that much tonight, but how he can get to his spots is very Jalen Brunson-esque in terms of just his size. No, I'm not saying he's on that level. But I'm saying in terms of his size and his footwork, and how he's able to slither into spots that he wants to get to in his head fakes, and he consistently gets a good look. For his size, that's pretty impressive. Kind of what I expected from the Celtics tonight. I think they're going to be like a play-in team. I don't really see much more than that. This was your NBA Finals pick, by the way. Jaylen Brown finished with 25 points. Felt like you didn't feel Jaylen Brown for a lot of this game. He was a non-factor. He's going to have to be an all-NBA level guy, let alone an all-star guy, for the Celtics to be a true factor in the East. Didn't feel him a lot tonight, even though he finished with a very quiet 25. That's really all I got from the Celtics. I'm good to get to the next games.
Yeah, and they shot 11 of 43 from 3, 25.6%. We know this is a team that has really bought into the identity of we're just going to launch threes and kind of live and die with the fate of it. Tonight was a night where they did not fall at enough rate, and the direct percentages there, the Sixers shot 40% from 3, the Celtics shot 25.6% from 3. There's going to be a lot of Boston Celtics game where that basically decides who the victor is of that matchup there. So I'll let you transition into the rest of the NBA here as I kind of got fired up on my last question here. Did this change any bit of how you view the Sixers from a playoff standpoint? I see some questions. Sixers making the playoffs. I've been an absolutely on this. I think there's no doubt about it. And shout out to my guy Nate Stolfoots there. I think this team is a playoff team. I think this is a top 6 playoff team that they're going to be above the play-in. Did tonight shift your view of that? And how do you feel about that question overall?
No, because I thought they were going to be a playoff team. I have them as a 6 seed coming into this year. And so that's even avoiding the play. And it's because of this youthful energy that they implemented to their team, where they're going to be younger, they're more athletic. They're not playing these old, aging veterans like they were last year, where they were sluggish. They're going to play with much faster pace. And what was so encouraging about tonight wasn't just Maxey and Edgecombe. Of course, that was incredible. It was they did it with a bad Joel Embiid, not just the absence of Joel Embiid, which we're going to have a lot of this season. Yeah. They did it with a bad Joel Embiid, who they were worse with on the court. Again, a -16 Joel Embiid, worst plus minus on the Sixers. So that was so encouraging about it. And I think this team is absolutely a playoff team in a really weak East for sure.
I know I've done the last question you a couple times here. Stop me when I'm getting too crazy. VJ Edgecombe could be Anthony Edwards.
All right, let's go to the Cavs next game.
All right, that's fair. All right, well, go ahead.
You always take it one step too far. You always take it
Michael Jordan was next, so
look, I mean, Anthony Edwards didn't have a 30 ball in his debut.
You're right. All right, so the NBA season off to the races here. We got off to an incredible start yesterday with a double overtime game to launch the season. But I'll let you take things the direction. I did tune in for a little bit of the Knicks Cavaliers tonight. Was much more all eyes on the Sixers, but I'll let you take this where you want.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask you kind of your impressions of the first Knicks offense. Not a lot to take away from the Cavs, I think, because without Darius Garland and Max Strus, they just aren't the same deep team that they have been or they were last year. I mean, they had Dean Wade finishing that game. Evan Mobley was great, but the Knicks come away with a home win, 119-111. They were in control for most of the game. Mike Brown played 11 guys in the first quarter. There's a lot to get to from this game. I'll ask your takeaways first, but Mike Brown played 11 guys in this game. The pace was different. How much you saw Jalen Brunson off the ball, Mikal Bridges getting more on-ball reps. Cat, of course, got 2 fouls within 5 minutes. Classic Cat. There's a lot that you saw that the Knicks were talking about throughout the offseason in terms of getting Brunson off the ball, playing with more pace. They ran a lot of these like brush screen actions into ball screens. They ran a lot through Cat, things that they were talking about, and you saw in preseason at times, but you really saw in the opener. So first, I'll just ask you, from what you saw, any big takeaways from the Knicks perspective?
Yeah, obviously a notable change from Tom Thibodeau would be my number one impression here, is that things were just shaken up, going 11 deep. That is unheard of in a Thibs playbook here. That is something that never happens here. I felt vindicated right away in this game about not letting you get away with the Karl-Anthony Towns' over the immaturity stuff, picking up 2 fouls with, I think, 7:27 was on the clock when he picked up his second one. And mind you, the second one, to my point about not all fouls are created equal, he picked up his second foul just shoving Evan Mobley 35 feet away from the basket, man. So, yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns has not matured in that area there, and that was a takeaway of mine. I'll also note probably my only big picture takeaway that I kind of had, and again, this is game 1 of 82. We really can't react to anything too notably in the larger scale. I think the Jared Allen era needs to end in Cleveland, man. That you're right. Evan Mobley is for sure the superior big man, that he's no doubt more talented than Allen there. And they've tried to do this double big thing. I think you just got to rock with Evan Mobley. You got to find a way to move on from Jared Allen. Donovan Mitchell's the truth. Evan Mobley can play. I don't see the vision with Jared Allen anymore in Cleveland.
Evan Mobley was playing a lot of the Sengun role that we saw yesterday, and we'll talk about those games last night, but where Evan Mobley was playing point for stretches because their true point guard wasn't even there. Darius Garland is the one for that team, and Donovan Mitchell plays more too, even though they do a lot of my turn, your turn stuff between those two guards. But Evan Mobley was bringing the ball up the floor certain times. He was initiating offense. This is what they did last year, where they had a lot running through him. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley pick and roll. With Evan Mobley as a short roller, he's become such a great decision maker and such a great driver, where he can kick, he can find Jared Allen the dunker, he can drive himself, he can shoot the 3 ball now, he can shoot the mid-range, even a couple pull-up middies he was getting too comfortably. So it looks like Evan Mobley, who I told you is a top 15 player in this league, is taking another step forward, and I was really impressed with his game. But I do want to talk more about the Knicks perspective. There was one of the first plays of the game. It was what we expected, where Brunson was off the ball. Bridges was bringing the ball up the floor, and it didn't start clean, but Bridges was getting pressured a lot into a ball screen. He finds Huck Porty in the short roll. Defense,
who, by the way, played way more than I thought he was going to.
Well, because Mitchell Robinson was injured, and so was Josh Hart. He was solid. He was pretty solid. Like he was crashing offensive glass, serving that Mitchell Robinson role. But he's not going to play as much once those two guys are healthy, which it actually might be a little while till they are. But he gets the ball in the short roll, gets defensive rotation, kicks it to Cat on the wing. Two guys fly at Cat, and Brunson's first touch on that possession is a wide open catch and shoot three, quick swing from Cat to Jalen Brunson, and Brunson knocks down the three ball. And that was like, this is what this offense is going to be more of, where Brunson is going to get so much more catch and shoot looks while Bridges initiates. And Bridges got off to a great start. He had like 10 points in the first 6 minutes or so. He kind of leveled off from there. It wasn't as much of a scoring factor. But in terms of his initiating the offense, that was really good to see because that's what Mike Brown has been talking about. And you want to give Jalen Brunson that relief. But look, late in the game, when it became a clutch game, it was within 5 points with 5 minutes to go. It was the Brunson show, and that's what it should be, right? It's always kind of be Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns playing the two-man game. There was a possession where they ran to it. Brunson just straight at him. He swings it to Bridges, and I believe Bridges forces the help off OG, swings it to the corner. OG drills a three, cut it from 5, or made their lead from 5 to 8. I'm just sifting through my notes here. That was what you want to see with this offense more, where it's going to be Bridges initiating a lot of the time, and then you're going to have Brunson playing off the ball. But late in the game, it's going to be Brunson just cooking.
Yeah, I thought that stood out like right away in this game, is that there is a clear focus for more touches, more ball movement, getting everyone involved a little bit more. And I think that's the right direction that they got to take. And it's tough in the NBA whenever you're so like heliocentric around an individual player. Like I think about Luka Doncic, I think about James Harden, Jalen Brunson, I think falls in a similar category here, where they're incredible decision makers and talents that can get the job done. But is it like the best way for team success? And I think the Knicks throughout the past really 2 seasons had become a little bit too dependent on just live and die with whatever Jalen Brunson does. It feels like they're making a conscious effort to try and snap that. And I also want to give a huge shout out to OG Anunoby, who I thought was incredible tonight. Like his stat line finished with 24 points, a team high 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block there. Shot 4 for 9 from 3, 9 of 17 from the field. He's a guy that I've always been like a little bit skeptical of. Can he take that next leap into that true talent? I think there's a world where he does this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how him and Bridges sort of, I don't want to say step on each other's toes, but like find a way to work together and coexist in a healthy offense. There's a lot of pieces here. So for my
that was my thing. Go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, for my anti-Knicks takes, I thought tonight was the night where they showed me a little something.
That was the thing between OG and Mikal Bridges last season, where both those guys were relegated to spot-up roles.
Right.
OG Anunoby is a spot-up player. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to have a lot of on-ball reps. Guys need to create for him.
He did a little tonight, though.
Yeah, he can a little bit, for sure. He's really good at attacking closeouts, but he's just not a guy who's going to initiate a lot. Mikal Bridges, that's why I was so upset with how Thibs used him last year, because he's a guy who can play on-ball. He can thrive in a spot-up role too, for sure. Good catch and shoot shooter, but he also can play on ball. And you saw that with some of his best seasons with the Nets, even if they weren't the greatest Nets teams in the world. So that's what was so encouraging. OG Anunoby is probably he's definitely the best 4th option in the league, if you want to call him the best 4th option. But he's a role player. He's the best. He's probably the best role player in the league. Like he's the Jokic of role players in a way, if you want, because he's the 4th best player on the team. So he is technically a role player in that way. The other thing that I saw was how much they went deep into the bench. And I've been saying, I wish Thibs played Tyler Kolek last year, because Tyler Kolek can play real minutes in the NBA. You saw him finally get real minutes for the first time, it felt like, in his career, because last year was his first year, and he played well. I mean, he was a guy who initiated the offense. And this is a test for him the first couple months of the season. Mike Brown is going to play him a lot, and they're going to decide, can Tyler Kolek be a legitimate backup point guard for us? Or are we going to have to go to the trade market and bring in another backup point guard? Because Jordan Clarkson's not really a true one. He's score-first guy.
Deuce can. Miles McBride.
Yeah, Miles McBride definitely can, but like they like to play him with Brunson a lot. So he's not always like running the show with the second unit, where Tyler Kolek did a really good job running the show with the second unit today. But they also had Malcolm Brogdon, which they thought was going to be their backup point guard until he retired last week. So that's why it's like Tyler Kolek was going to get no burn when Malcolm Brogdon was on the team. When he retired, it's like, all right, Tyler Kolek, we'll give you some opportunity to run the show as our backup one. if they don't like what they see, they're probably going to go out to the trade market before the deadline, pick up some backup point guard. But I thought he was really good tonight. Like, he's a great shooter, but he's also a really good passer, really good operating out of the pick and roll. So I was impressed with Tyler Kolek tonight. They played so many guys deep in the bench. There was one guy, I'd have to go to the box score. I feel like I know everyone in the NBA almost. I didn't even know who one of these guys were yet. Trey Jameson.
Yeah,
I didn't
play for
even
the
know who that
Lakers.
was.
Play for the Lakers a little bit if I've got the right guy.
Maybe
Sure.
that's embarrassing. Like, I feel like I know everybody who plays in a game in the NBA, and I see this guy coming. I'm like, I don't even know who he is. He's got 7 minutes.
He played for the Lakers last year. He played for the Pelicans, Grizzlies, and Wizards previously. He's bounced around a little bit. He's still only 25 years old. I like Trey Jameson a little bit. He's fine.
Look at you. Look at you. That's impressive stuff. But the point is that they went really, really deep into their bench. And you didn't see that last year. And there were stretches where it was ugly, but they obviously overcame it in the end. And that type of rest that Brunson was getting, a lot of these guys were getting, was really good for them throughout the whole season, or will be.
Shout out our guy Sixers fan 229 in on the Trey Jameson experience as well. And I love the VJ Edgecombe profile picture already up there and loaded. I love everything about that there. So yeah, a big win for the Knicks overall here, getting started in the right direction here. I also want to shout out Cavaliers. I know you're taking this from a little bit more Knicks angle. I do want to give the Cavs a little bit of love. I love seeing Tyrese Proctor out there, man. I liked him at Duke like throughout the entirety of his career, and I think he's like just a good player. Sort of similar to the Tyler Kolek angle. Both these guys were players like I had labeled as sort of like they're going to be overlooked in the wider NBA experience because they're not these high-level athletes or guys that pop from statistically what they do, but they just know how to play basketball. I think both Proctor and Kolek fell in that category there, and it was nice to see him get a little burn. Lonzo Ball also, by the way, did not shoot the ball well whatsoever. 1 for 7 from 3, but did have 6 assists. It was nice seeing him out there moving and healthy again. I think this Cavaliers team could be in more trouble than I expected. When I dive down this overall roster, we got 36 minutes out of Evan Mobley, who played very well. Donovan Mitchell, 36 minutes, played incredibly well, is the truth. Their next highest scorer is Sam Merrill at 19 points. Their other two starters, Jared Allen played 28 minutes, had 4 points and 4 rebounds. I already mentioned I'm pretty much out on the Jared Allen experience. Jalen Tyson played 20 minutes. Then we're talking about Dean Wade, 28, Lonzo, 23, Larry Nance Jr., 17, Tyrese Proctor, 16. There was a stretch in that game where Larry Nance Jr. was the best player on the floor. That just cannot happen if you want to be a serious basketball team.
But they were without 2 key guys. Like Darius Garland's out, and he's their true one. He should be back pretty soon within the next couple of weeks. Max Strus has a longer recovery, but he's going to be back eventually. Those are 2 guys that will probably be in their closing lineups, ideally, if the Cavs are completely healthy. So I'm not going to overreact to their first game when they're missing 2 potential starters. But yeah, like they're not as deep as they were last year. That's for sure.
You didn't really push back or accept my Jared Allen. The experience needs to be over in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you want from Jared Allen?
Not to be playing for the Cavaliers.
I don't think it's a spacing issue anymore because of how much Evan Mobley's extended his game, where they use him as a hub and he's that legitimate 3-point threat now. So I don't like it used to be a big spacing issue between those 2 guys because neither of them could shoot. But how Evan Mobley kind of operates now, the leap that he's taken and the space that Kenny Atkinson operates with Jared Allen is usually just in the dunker spot. And I really like him last year. They were able to stagger their units, where it was Donovan Mitchell with Evan Mobley a lot and Darius Garland with Jared Allen a lot. And that Darius Garland, Jared Allen pick and roll in the second unit, or even like sometimes at end of the third quarter, there were certain moments last year. That was a really good situation to stagger 2 guards and bigs who are really good in the pick and roll. So I don't think it's like he's not like some all-star or anything like that, but you have to play with 2 bigs now. Like the rest of the league is playing with 2 bigs. So he's not some guy I would ship out just now.
I think every team has their own style. Like, I think there's still fewer teams that are not playing with 2 bigs than are. Like, I mean,
a lot of the most successful teams are these days.
I mean, what, the Thunder, the Rockets, like, I wouldn't say that. I think that's unfair to say that. Like, I think I'll put it this way. I think you're right that you should have it as an option. I don't think that needs to be your identity as a team.
Like, and the Knicks do it. The Cavs do it.
The Rockets, Thunder, and that's pretty much all I got for you.
I gotta think a little more. The Nuggets could do it with Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Jokic this year. I think you're going to see a little bit of that.
But the counter to that, and it's a copycat league, the NBA is, that whatever is working, whatever's trending, that's what teams buy into, is what the immediate swing back to that is. It's going to be exactly what the Philadelphia 76ers are doing, where guys are going to be loaded up with guards. I dare you, Jared Allen, to guard Jared McCain on the perimeter. I dare you, Karl Anthony Towns, to try and stick with Quentin Grimes off the dribble. It's not going to happen. So there's going to be like the give and take with each of these matchups here.
Mm-hmm. Evan Mobley was switched on. You're talking about, but like Evan Mobley's going to be the guy who got to guard perimeter guys, and he was last year. He was switched on to Brunson a couple possessions.
Yeah,
and he held his own for sure. Like he didn't bite on any of those Jalen Brunson pump fakes a couple times. So he was Defensive Player of the Year for a reason last year. It's mostly because of his rim protection, but he's capable of switching out on the guards for sure.
Mobley is like the guy I'll throw in a unique category. Wembanyama, I'll throw in a unique category. Maybe Chet Holmgren a little bit to an extent there, but none of these other guys, I think you can remotely consider that. So I think it's a fair point. I think it was an interesting matchup. Good for you that your New York Knicks got an opening day victory as well.
Not my New York Knicks, not my team.
Yeah,
league. See that? NBA on NBC.
That's right. Speaking of the NBA on NBC, I did want to talk a little bit about yesterday, man. I think there's a chance we saw the best basketball game of the entire season as the first one. That was incredible. Double overtime. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder and Houston Rockets. Did you have like a biggest takeaway from that game? Or I'll let you bat lead off here.
It's probably Reed Sheppard, honestly. I haven't stopped thinking about him for 24 hours now. How bad he was in that game. And I was such a huge Reed Sheppard guy. But defensively, I mean, right before this, someone sent me a clip that like Underdog put together of his defensive highlights. And it was just him. I mean, it's a pretty mean clip, but it was just him getting blown by left and right. I mean, when the Thunder guys saw him as the primary defender, their eyes just lit up. It was like when a fat boy sees a cake. Like they just start running towards it because they're like, oh my God, I'm about to eat. It was like Lou Dort had him a couple of times. Every time Shai Gilgeous had him, they were trying to attack him left and right. And it was like worse than I could have imagined. Like I didn't think he was going to be some great defender coming in, but it was worse than I could have imagined. There's no reason he can't be a Peyton Pritchard level defender who's a good defender. Like that's a really small guy who's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's a good, solid defender, pesky defender. It was really ugly. Reed Sheppard was getting blown by left and right, and they were attacking him. And it was disappointing. And that I feel like because of it, it translated to his offense where he made 1 3. I forget his exact stat line, but he had 9 points. So he made a few threes, but he had a couple turnovers, a couple times where he picked up his dribble early. He just looked uncomfortable out there, which was really surprising. And I don't want to completely pile on him because it essentially was his debut. And that's a tough game to be thrown into, nationally televised, opening night against the defending champs. He didn't really play any meaningful minutes for the Rockets last year. He was mostly playing in the G League. So this was really his debut, and that's a tough place to be thrown into, especially because the Rockets needed point guards. They were trying a bunch of stuff. But the thing with Ime Udoka is if you're not guarding, if you can't play defense, you can't play for him. And that's probably why he didn't really play at all last year. But now they need a point guard, and it was pretty obvious they don't have one. KD had stretches where he was playing the one. Alperen Sengun had stretches where he was bringing the ball before initiating. Men Thompson, all these guys were trying to play the one, but they don't have a true point guard. And Reed Sheppard's clearly not the answer because that was a very discouraging performance from him.
Yeah, I'm a Reed Sheppard stockholder here, and it did break my heart a little bit to watch that last night. And I think it like especially stands out when you pair him on a team like the Rockets, who are as big and are as like defensively motivated as they are. When you have guys like Amen Thompson and Tari Eason and guys that are just going to make your life hell when you're trying to go up against them. When you do have that little window for Reed Sheppard that you can take off the dribble here, they're going to take that 10 times out of 10. Like it's one thing to compare it with the Sixers here. If Jared McCain's the worst defender on the floor, but you can also take on like Maxey, who I think is a guy who's turned himself into an above average defender. And it certainly worked in that category. It's not as like night and day. Like yesterday, it was so clear that Reed Sheppard is the worst defender on the floor, and they're going to attack that every single time. And I will say, like, I'm a Reed Sheppard guy. I'm rooting for the dude. I believe in the dude. I believe in him as a talent. I'm also a believer that defense is at least partially effort. And I did not see enough of it yesterday. That you have to like work to just not let your guy get positioned, to fight, to deter the passes going in, to fight through screens. And I just didn't see enough of a will to like want to dig in on that end of the floor. So it's one game. You're absolutely right. That's a pretty difficult spot to be thrown in with the expectations against the defending champ, against a team that knows exactly who their identity is as a basketball team. But yeah, certainly a point in the wrong direction, and one that made me think the Rockets got to get some semblance of a real point guard.
Yeah, it was It was discouraging, but there is an encouraging part for the Rockets, which was how great Alperen Sengun was. And he didn't look good in that first quarter. I didn't like where a lot of touches were coming from. I was like, why is he bringing the ball before? Why is he initiating the offense? It felt like the Alperen Sengun we've seen is a guy who should be getting low post touches or at least high post touch, mid post touches. He was catching the ball so deep and he was operating as a point guard. And then we saw it's like, okay, this guy actually does have guard skills now. Like he was handling the ball pretty well as the game went on. He was drilling threes. He made 5 threes last night. He didn't even attempt more than 3 threes once in the entire season last year. So if this guy's just like a sniper all of a sudden, that opens up so much for this Rockets offense in a way that, I mean, they still need a point guard, but this Rockets offense could really go to a whole new level. KD didn't play well last night. Not concerned. Just it wasn't his night. You saw a lot in the first half, especially where this Rockets offense was bad last year. I mean, they were around league average, but to me, especially in the clutch, they were bad offense. And it's because they didn't have a lot of play finishers. Like there was so many times where the offense would break down and didn't have anyone to go to. You saw that a lot with a lot of ugly offensive possessions in the first half last night. But then you just had Kevin Durant, who just came into a pull-up jumper and drilled something and made something out of nothing. That's the luxury of having Durant. And he didn't finish the game well. He took responsibility for some of those turnovers and boneheaded mistakes he made late in those overtimes.
Timeout.
He was, they didn't call that. I tweeted it was like the Kirby Smart thing. It was like he said he was clapping. He didn't say it, but it was like he was clapping, wasn't calling a timeout. Regardless, I just didn't think it was a good KD game, but I'm not worried about it. From the Thunder's perspective, I mean, it was an incredible basketball game, top to bottom. Like, a lot of guys fouled out. Isaiah Hartenstein, I think Chet fouled out too. We'll talk about the Chet thing, but it was an incredible basketball game. From OKC's perspective, they were without their second best player. Like no Jalen Williams. You had to have a lot of shot creation coming from Chet, especially in the first half, where Shea was not good in the first half at all. He had 30 in the second. So it was great Chet performance, but I'm not going to put too much stock in anything Oklahoma City does until Jalen Williams is back.
Yeah, Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant, that he's going to be just fine. I'm 100% with you that I'm not panicked there. And I still see the clear fit. Amin Thompson got hurt last night also, which I think is noteworthy there. Yeah. And it's clear that they're making an emphasis to allow him to take the keys if he's ready for it. But Alperen Sengun, man, that dude looked like a top 20 NBA player as I sort of reflected on our list a little bit, that he showed me something. And in general, one of the reasons that I've not been a Jokic guy, I'm not an Alperen Sengun hype man, is stylistically, I just don't love that way to play. That I'm much more prone to a guy who can strap up defensively, who can be an anchor of your defense in a way that guys like those players are just not. Sengun just will not. The Rockets have obviously found ways to supplement that, and in every situation here, I think that there's give and take, that you can find pairings that work. But Sengun showed a level of specialness offensively that I did not really think he had in his bag there. So shout out to him. That did change the way that I look at him as a player and the Rockets as a team.
Definitely. And the Thunder went to Alex Caruso guarding Alperen Sengun a lot, which is what they did in the second round series against Jokic. And part of this, because he's a great post defender, even though he gives up a lot of size, but part of being a great post defender that size is you can get away with a lot. The refs let small guys get away with a lot when they're guarding bigs. Alex Caruso was not a good post defender last night at all. I didn't think he had a good game at all, especially defensively. But Alperen Sengun, every time you saw him, he was bringing him down, getting good position, going to a little mini hook, sky hook, and he was really effective against Alex Caruso, who has had success throughout his career guarding bigger guys. So I thought that was impressive. There was a possession where Alex Caruso ran at ran at KD, because they wanted to bring two on KD to get the ball off his hands. But he was leaving Alperen Sengun wide open. And it was one of the possessions where Alperen Sengun drilled a wide open three. It was really a questionable boneheaded move from Alex Caruso. I don't know if the coaching staff told him to do that, but you're leaving a guy who made 4 threes before that wide open for 3. So I didn't think it was a great game from him. But again, I'm not worried anything about either of these two teams. These are two of the best teams in the West.
Oh, yeah. Best teams in the league, 2 of them, for sure. No doubt about that. So I was impressed. I was thrilled that that's how the NBA season got launched off there. I don't think we got to go too much deeper in that. We did get a little bit of late action, Lakers and Warriors. My only real notable takeaway from this game, I did think Luka Doncic looked skinnier. I did think Luka Doncic moved a little better than we had seen for really the past couple of seasons here. Do you agree with me on that, or is there anything else in that game that you think stood out to you?
For sure. I mean, what stood out to me was why I'm not high on this Lakers team, and I didn't get all the Lakers hype. Luka's awesome. We know what Luka is. I thought he looked in better shape.
Yeah.
This Lakers team is awful. I mean, they still don't have a center. DeAndre Ayton was a non-factor last night, and they played Jackson Hayes a bunch of minutes too. And there's a reason Jackson Hayes got benched and JJ Redick wouldn't play him in the playoffs, and then apparently apologized to him after the playoffs for benching him, and probably costing him some money too. It was for a reason, though. It's because the guy isn't playable. Like, they still don't have a center. DeAndre Ayton is not a good player. He wasn't effective as a rebounder.
Man. He sucks. DeAndre Ayton
sucks. It's hard to watch at this point. He wasn't a good play finisher. Wasn't good as a rebounder. Isn't a rim protector. He's just not the center that Luka Doncic should want to play with, like a Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford.
He's not a winning basketball player, DeAndre Ayton.
100%. 100% for reasons off the court, but certainly on the court, the production just isn't there anymore. And look, he's going to have games where he puts up 20 and 10 games. Those are empty stats as far as I'm concerned with DeAndre Ayton. He doesn't contribute to winning in the way a lot of other centers do who don't put up the numbers that DeAndre Ayton does. So look, this team just doesn't have a lot of depth. Austin Reeves didn't have the best night, but he was also in a lot of foul trouble, so he never really got into a rhythm. My whole thing this whole year with the Lakers was they don't have enough help for Luka Doncic. And I don't think LeBron James is going to be playing a lot this year. And that's an interesting conversation we can have about LeBron James's antics last night. But, or I guess non-antics, you could say, the stoic face that he had all day, not even clapping or anything, or acknowledging that a game was being played. But it felt like this is how the Lakers season is going to go, where without LeBron there for stretches, and he's not going to be there for a while, Luka just doesn't have enough help. And he was great yesterday, and that was a really good Warriors team. The Warriors are a contender in the West. They looked awesome, but the defense was poor. There was no ball pressure on the Warriors guards, and that's what happens when you have a Luka, Austin Reeves backcourt. It was just I'm very, very skeptical about how good this Lakers team could be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought last night was a night that showed that. It really made me think, like, watching it, like, it sounds so crazy now because obviously the Dallas Mavericks went the direction they did and made their decisions. But if you date back, like go back a full calendar year before the Luka Doncic trade ever happened, I think that front office made a ton of awesome moves to like bring in the right guys around Luka Doncic.
Before the finals run, they traded for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Those were like two of the best acquisitions that year.
Yeah, drafting Derek Lively, guys like that are just perfect fits to pair Luka with. He has like none of those guys out there in Los Angeles. And I kind of gave the Lakers a pass because it was a midseason deal. You just had a whole offseason and clearly have not figured out enough. And I understand like the salary cap situation, not great, but that's why you're paid the big bucks, Rob Pelinka. You need to figure some things out and find a way to get the job done. I just don't think that happened there.
It feels like they're wasting a year of Luka Doncic, which is never smart to do when you have a guy that good in his prime, especially because he's had a little bit of injury history. But what their plan is, and I think the part of the plan they pitched to Luka Doncic, why he signed an extension, was they're going to have a lot of salary cap next year. They're getting LeBron off the books at all costs, no matter what. That's $50+ million off your books for next year. You're going to have to pay Austin Reeves, or you're going to cut bait with him because he's going to get a big payday from somewhere, whether it's LA or somewhere else. So I don't know what that's going to look like or what this roster is going to look like next season. But to me, it's always been the summer of 2026 was their goal. They're going to have a lot of cap space, guys that want to play with Luka, and they're going to put the right team around Luka where it's a rim running, rim protecting center, not a DeAndre Ayton type. It's a lot of spot up players like Derek Lively's, like PJ Washington, who are good on-ball defenders and can hide Luka Doncic. And it's a secondary guy like a Kyrie Irving who can be a secondary creator and ball handler, which I think Austin Reeves is capable of being alongside Luka. But again, that's a really bad defensive backcourt, and we'll see if the Lakers end up paying him. But it just doesn't feel like this. And maybe we're overreacting to one game, but I thought this coming into the year. So it's not just based on last night. I just didn't think this roster was deep enough or they got enough help for Luka Doncic. But let me ask you, did you because I'm kind of bought into your theory before the season, which was that LeBron is going to milk this thing a little bit because he's not happy with the Lakers organization and the direction that they're headed, which is kind of away from him and how they're treating him. And so based on what happened last night where he didn't clap once. I mean, there were people, everyone who was at the game, all these reporters who were at the game said the guy did not clap. He was not engaged. And that is rare to see when LeBron James is out. So I don't know if he was just having a bad day or he's really sending a message to Los Angeles. But that was like, just be a good teammate. Like, be a good teammate at least.
Yeah, so I'm not a LeBron guy. I never have been. I do get where he's coming from to an extent here. Like I do think that was 100% intentional because I disagree with the logic. I think you're right in assessing it. I disagree with the logic if you just throw away a season when you have Luka Doncic in his prime and you have LeBron James. Like you have a puncher's chance.
I don't think they're throwing away season. Like the expectation is if LeBron can be a top 20 player in the league, they should be that good. I don't think they're going to be that good because I don't think LeBron's going to play that much because of his injuries are piling up, and I don't think he's a top 20 player in the league anymore. But what else did you want them to do? They're paying him $50+ million. Well, where is it from? How does LeBron have a right to be mad at the Lakers front office?
Because DeAndre Ayton's a loser, and you already knew that. Jackson Hayes is not good enough, and you already knew that. That they're like Marcus Smart is a shell of himself and was doing the tomfoolery stuff that is Marcus Smart type of things last night. Like the Steph Curry stuff of like yanking his arm was absurd. And there is a part
30 plays, like real
30
plays.
Like 100% there. And I will say, like, there's a part of me that like. I'm more of a Marcus Smart, I guess, like appreciator. Last night, I thought you just can't be doing some of that stuff. But my point being here is like I don't think these are legitimate attempts at building out a roster, and I think LeBron James sees it that way. We've never seen in the history of the NBA a player of LeBron James caliber, and when I say that, I'm not speaking about him in his present. I'm speaking about what he's done over the entirety of his career. Like, sort of be treated like just not wanted at the tail end here. And I think that's how he feels. So I do.
Yes, that's definitely how he feels. But again, we've talked about his Lakers legacy. He's not some Kobe Bryant guy where you're just giving him a contract after 20 years with the organization. Doesn't matter how much it is. And you're willing to falter and your franchise hurt your franchise because of it. He doesn't deserve that from Los Angeles. They have to do what's in the best interest of themselves. And that is cutting ties with the LeBron James after next season. And in some ways, it was probably, we would have hoped that he would just go away this season so we'd have all that cap space to work with, even though that there wasn't a robust free agent market. But again, they have to do what's best for themselves. And that's cutting ties with LeBron James. So I don't get, he can be mad in theory, but the Lakers are doing the right thing for them.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, that's how they got to operate. There's also like no track record to like Larry Bird didn't play till he was 40. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't play till he was 40. Michael Jordan, I guess, kind of did, but he had the baseball break and played for the Wizards and all that. So a little bit different category here. I just like, I think that's the situation. I have no idea how it concludes. That I don't think I expect LeBron James to just be available next week. I think this is going to be something that does bleed into the season and stretch out. And he evaluates, like, can I force my hand somewhere? Can I talk myself into a buyout and sign somewhere and go out? I think that's what's running through his brain. I don't think that's probably like a realistic like pathway to any of these conclusions. I think at the end of the day, he suits up for the Los Angeles Lakers this season and gives them some sort of chance. But it's just, I think we're at the beginning part of this entire saga, which I don't think enough people are cognizant of.
Yeah, I mean, I was giving you credit for your take, which was that he's going to milk this injury. I do think it's a legitimate injury for sure. That's going to, regardless, keep him out till mid-November. But if the Lakers start out really poor, he's going to milk it a little bit longer and be like, see, I told you, you're not putting a winning team together. And I don't know if that means he's going to force a trade or how that would go down exactly. But I could see that him milking this thing a little longer and making some subtle comments to the media, as he likes to do, maybe hold a little abrupt press conference and just make some subtle comments about the Lakers front office, maybe Luka, which could cause some friction between Luka and LeBron. And again, that's a tough situation to put JJ Redick in, who JJ Redick's there because of you in a lot of ways, LeBron. So that's difficult situation that you want to put your coach in, but I think LeBron's going to do some LeBron narrative spinning stuff through the media, which he's loved to do. And things are going to get a little dramatic in Los Angeles, which they always are. It's kind of how people are accustomed to out there.
Well, note if the JJ Redick experience is dying out, me and Sam Oshtry here also do podcasts. So, look our direction.
I love JJ Redick. I'm not saying this is
it's not his fault. For sure not. Not. Like I honestly, more so of me feels bad for JJ Redick that you got to deal with all this.
But I feel bad for him, but he also just got gifted Luka in his lap. And he'll be there for when LeBron's way gone, and they'll have a good roster. So they'll be good in the long run, but they have to get through this post-LeBron experience.
Yeah, and I do ultimately think like when the dust settles, he's going to be a very good NBA head coach. Like he's working through a lot, dealing with all the ego side of things and all that. The X's and O's, JJ Redick's going to be just fine. So yeah, I'm with you on all this. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Lakers process plays itself out. But man, it feels good that basketball is back, Sam Oshtry.
apparently we're missing like a Wemby performance for the ages right now. 31 points midway through the third.
Wow. All right. Well, how about we get over it and pop that on the back screen here? I think we did enough talking about a 1-0 Philadelphia 76ers team, a 1-0 to Sam Oshtry's New York Knicks right there. Basketball is back underway. We got a thrilling match between the Rockets and Thunder to kick off the season here. We got plenty more to get into throughout the entirety of the season. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys hanging with us right here tonight after the first game. Any final thoughts from you, Sam?
No, I thought this was a great show. We're going to keep doing a lot of these post-game shows as much as often after some big games, big moments. Again, get involved in the conversation. A lot of good comments, a lot of good views tonight. Leave us a voicemail, 856-295-1602, or email the show at paceandspaceshow@gmail.com. I thought this was a great show. We're going to keep building, keep going from here. So this will be a Thursday's pod, so no pod tomorrow. This will be out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify tomorrow morning.
Yeah, 100%. It felt good to be fired up about the Sixers. I was up cheering. I was up rooting for this game. I was screaming for that final stop.
It's been a while, right? It's been a while.
Yeah, I had not felt like that in quite some time. So shout out to you guys for tuning into this video tonight. Make sure to subscribe and like and wherever you're listening at. Give us a follow on all the socials at PickSwapMedia1 on Twitter, on Instagram, everything else there. We'll be back talking to you next time, and keep hanging easy. Go Wembanyama, I guess, is what we're going to be tuning into next. So appreciate you guys, and talk soon.